Hello all, and welcome back to Shatter Our Souls with Novaria. Today, we are continuing the no ammo run of Borderlands 1. And before we get too far into it, let's just make sure that we can see that I have not fired any bullets ever. And off we go to the races. Now, today I have two tasks in mind. The first is to attempt the Circle of Slaughter, or whatever that one is, the one that has all of the skags in it. I know there's the Circle of Slaughter and Circle of Death and Circle of something or another in the, which one is it? The, Cromorax DLC? Nox DLC, that's the one. But point being, we're gonna fight probably the second round of the Skags of the Circle of Slaughter. And then we're going to head into the next area towards the next main story beat. Which is great, because it means we are getting somewhere actually a fair bit farther than I had initially anticipated. But what do we have coming up here? We have a circumstance that is going to be very painful in the near future, which is that we're also going to be fighting Moe and Marley. Now, as far as some bosses go within the Borderlands universe and franchise, some are more threatening than others. And Moe and Marley are, unironically, the first major I like. Moe and Marley are the first major threats that are not considered main story bosses. And this is beautiful, because it means that we can hopefully see some positive progress in the near future. And hopefully we can touch base on why Moe and Marley are so significantly challenging compared to most other side bosses. For now, I'm trying to kind of plan out the way I'm going to be going through this, because the Circle of Slaughter or Circle of Death, whichever one this one is, ends up being kind of iffy sometimes. I'm currently level 14. Which means I'm likely to be fighting level 13 through 15 most likely. And Alpha, I think, is going to be a hard fight at the moment, with most of my damage coming from now damage over time effects thanks to the shock artifact, which is wonderful. Because if I have a damage over time effect at all, we can start taking down opponents faster and more consistently, just on the virtue of this is what I'm fighting with. And we're level 15, which means we're going to punch just a little bit harder for now. So, that's great, isn't it? That's exactly what we want to see. We want to see a growth, a change, an increase over time, and this showcases exactly what we're aiming for. So, good news, I suppose. Part of the reason why I wanted to get the shock artifact before attempting this was simply due to the fact that the shock artifact would have a damage over time effect, which we'll get through the armor of most basic armored enemies such as alphas. This is great, and it is a huge boost to see that we have that capability. Next up, we also have to worry about what comes in the future. Round 3 usually ends up with at least 2 to 3 level 18s, which are possible, but are also kind of on the harder side. So we're going to see what happens, and hopefully I can punch my way through this, as I have everything so far. If not, well, we'll get there when we get there, I suppose. Yeah, starting out with level 15 adults. But the cannons are still firing. Technically, this is the type of weapon you never have to fire, but, you know, be that as it may. The nice thing about the abilities that we're starting to spec into is that if you have a weaker enemy nearby, you can start to dish out more damage just on the virtue of you've defeated an enemy within 10 seconds. So there's a lot of room for further improvement of the capabilities of the player over time. This is what I like to see and hear, because it means we are making exceptional progress forward. Unfortunately, at this moment in time, I'm kind of have to play chicken for a little bit, waiting for the ability to reset. Now, I don't say this as a negative. I think that it's a good thing when the game forces the player to think outside the box. But I might be biting off a little more than I can chew at the moment. The problem with alphas at this early stage of the game is that until after defeating what would be the what's his name? Mad Mel and entering I guess it'd be New Haven. It ends up being a circumstance of you really don't have much in terms of output for a lot of these, because truth be told, a lot of artifacts and that kind of stuff just don't have enough output to battle against an armored opponent, especially before you gain the corrosion artifact. Now, the corrosion artifact you get in the tetanus warrens, in much the same way you get the shock artifacts. It is designed to be able to take out armored enemies more readily, but it is at a point in the game where armored enemies are fewer and farther between in comparison to most other enemy types. Therefore, you're kind of falling a little bit behind. It could be useful, but they do it in a way that ends up not feeling 100% and doesn't really do justice to the circumstance. Anyways, while we run away from these two lovely level 18 skags that could easily tear me limb from limb, what else could we really mention about this? I suppose today's going to focus very heavily on fighting skags, because we're also going to be dealing with the introduction of the Arid Hills. The Arid Hills is a relatively small side area. It doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of, not very hub area-like compared to some others, but it has a lot going for it in the form of... I'm dead. I am so very dead. It has a lot going for it in the form of side missions in this area. But I knew this was probably going to be the case. Nice to see that my expectations were accurate. Welcome to the Arid Hills. Now, Arid Hills has a little bit of a bandit population, but it also has probably one of the most dense skag populations out of anywhere in the game. This includes, but is not limited to, Skag Gully. So we're going to have a boost in terms of how many skags we can defeat, and we're going to be dealing with a few extra side objectives for the next little bit. And while we're here, I suppose it's time to talk about what makes Moe and Marley so unique, and why I believe that they are actually a rather difficult tag team to take care of. So, for anybody who's played Dark Souls, you probably know the story of Ornstein and Smough. Don't worry, I'll explain it. Ornstein and Smough, you have an incredibly large, heavy opponent with a large sweeping attacks and a very light opponent, less armor, but can also rush across the arena. Your job is to defeat both of them simultaneously, which is incredibly difficult. Because if you make one misstep, you will end up getting hit by one and or both of them. And it's hard to reset your positioning once they get you. Now, the reason I want to bring this up is because Moe and Marley are much the same. That was oddly satisfying. Moe and Marley are much the same, but they're adapted more for this type of gameplay, where you are expected to be at a distance from your opponent. See, Ornstein and Smo are designed around close-range fights, typically speaking, but Moe and Marley being built around a shooter mentality is actually a great thing for this, because Moe is a close-range combatant. Generally, Moe will charge in and try to fight you head-on. Marley, on the other hand, tends to hang back and spit electric balls at you, which is great. The easiest way to take care of them is to split them up. You split them up, and their individual abilities kind of cancel each other, or don't really have as much of a leg to stand on. So great, we have a plan of action for these guys. So why are they so bad? Why is this video another half an hour? Reality is that getting to them is half the battle, and actually being able to defeat at least one of them ends up being significantly harder. As I said, Moe and Marley are defensive specialists, and each of them has a different type of battle that they focus, or different type of combat style that they individually focus on, making them, without too much being said, rather difficult to beat on a one-to-one basis. Ordinarily, fighting Moe and Marley, I would fight Moe first, or try to whittle Moe down, because Moe being a close-range creature, shall we say, ends up being to my benefit, because I can just pepper him, get him to get out of Marley's range, and then fight him at that range. That's great. That's perfect. That's exactly what we'll do then. But what about Marley? Marley, being more of a long-range fighter, is a bit more challenging to weed out. Marley focuses very heavily on long-range attacks. Electric attacks, meaning that your shield is pretty much a moot point in the battle. And if not having a reasonable shield was reason enough to be concerned, I've got great news. There's more. Ordinarily, I would fight Marley with either a SMG or some form of heavier weapon, such as a sniper rifle, light machine gun, something that can deal a fair bit of damage for when it does its spit of electricity. Because if you can shoot a single bullet down its weak point, congratulations, you can do a lot to Marley in a very short span of time. We don't have that option. And while I did fight to try to find it, you will find that it's not all that easy to land a critical hit with your falcon punches, just on the basis of this is what we're up against. This is how strong the opponent actually is. So, what do? Unfortunately, there's more to even mess this up further. If you leave your either Moe or Marley for approximately a minute, they'll begin to regain their HP, resetting them back to full health within about a minute and a half. So not only do you have to hit them hard, you have to hit them fast, and at no point in time are you going to be able to one-cycle either of them. Meaning, this is one of the first battles that I actually have to sit down and really think about how to fight it. Not just on the basis of smacking it around for a cycle and hoping that my HP and regeneration outlasts their HP. But I need to make sure that I do it in such a way that I end up besting or maintaining the type of distance and avoiding getting hit long enough that I can actually defeat both of them. Maybe not simultaneously, but in some capacity or another, I need to beat both of them relatively quickly. Which ends up being a little bit more tricky than I would like. Nonetheless, here we are. So, the plan was as follows, just to reiterate and make things a little bit more simplistic and straightforward. Going after Moe first is a must. Moe being the close-range fighter, he will follow you much farther than Marley ever will. Goal is to get Moe to follow me under here, so that I have a large open area to fight him on my terms. That is the first major task that I need to complete. The second is that I need to, once Moe is on its path to going down, Marley must be in quick succession. I cannot leave this area once Moe is gone, regardless of what happens, because he will respawn. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's good to come back and challenge it another day. I don't like leaving things unfinished. So, instead, we're going to go after Marley at the same time. Or directly after. Now, Marley's whole gambit is the long range. And Marley has a slam attack that sends the player flying backwards. If you get caught by it, a full Berserk mode blitz can usually land about 6 hits if you're not paying attention to its slams, meaning you're not really getting very far with it. So, we need to find a way to deal enough damage quickly through the Berserks and land at least 1 to 2 smaller hits in between each Berserk mode in order to ensure that the enemies are down fast and efficiently without letting them recharge their health. And this is easier said than done. Which means, before we take on Marley, we have to make sure that this entire area is clear of skags. And that's another one of those, well, why do it now? If you don't clear the area first, while the bonus would be better for in the middle of the battle, there's too much going on to safely battle it, and therefore not exactly an ideal circumstance. So we got Moe coming down here now, and you can kind of get a guesstimation for how long it actually takes to get this sorted out, because it's already middle of the day / evening, and there are enemies respawning in the early areas of where I was. Moe is now in my realm. So we're going to take him down as quickly as possible, because that's what you do, right? Now, Moe doesn't have a slam to knock you back as far as Marley does. He does have a couple abilities that will send you backwards, but it's not going to do much comparatively. His biggest defense is just trying to get away, run away, and whatnot. His biggest attack is a flame charge. He doesn't like to leave fights unfinished, so he will actively charge at the player, effectively mitigating his one bonus that he has, being that he can, as a boss-type enemy, recharge HP. So yay, we got something. So, that's all good. I think it's pretty well clear that Moe is not the hard one of these two. Marley, however, is pretty well built to counter a melee-style build. And that's not exactly a good thing. Now, theoretically, Brick would have a much easier time fighting Moe and Marley than, let's say, Roland only using special abilities. But that's not really saying much. Wow. There we go, level 16. Moe is down. So, Moe's down, what's next? We have to tackle Marley. Marley is going to have a couple additional side characters pop in, because while I did attempt to clean out as much as I could, unfortunately, they respawn way too fast in this area. And we're also going to take off the artifact for now. Shock artifact, while it could potentially be useful, just doesn't have enough output. And it still does the same amount of physical damage, but you lose out on all of the elemental damage every time you use it. So it's not actually useful for this battle. And that's a shame. And that's what I mean by the slam attack absolutely demolishes your capabilities of getting anywhere with Marley. And this is also how I discovered all of Marley's, shall we call it, tips and tricks, because I had spent a good hour and a half fighting Marley and the surrounding enemies trying to figure out how best to counter it. It was unbelievably painful trying to get that 1.5 hours worth of experience fighting this enemy to actually figure out how to beat it. But we also now have to deal with Marley's other friend. Now, unlike Moe and Marley, the corrosive skag is not an alpha, which means, theoretically, it also takes significantly more damage than Moe and Marley ever would, but in exchange for that, it has higher mobility. So, a little bit of a give and take there. The corrosive skag is going to be a problem. And one that we can quite happily and quite readily eliminate from our problems. Yeah, that's what I thought. This shock blast does absolutely nothing to Marley, which means let's clear out the rest of this, because that's really all I have left that I can do. Yep, that pretty well sums up my luck. Now, thankfully, Marley is technically lower level at this point. But there's a lot that I could potentially use that could give me a boost. Admittedly, if I was, planning this now, I would use the thermal Nova shield that I have as a means of boosting or damage boosting a little bit. Because with the Nova shield, all I would really need to do is get in close before it did the slam, because I would set out a fire Nova right around it. Anyway, that's unfortunately a past Nova that has to deal with that. But regardless, knowing that there was other options, I'm not so disappointed with how this went. Ouch. Theoretically, your best hope for beating Marley is going to be to get it so that it's close to an area that when it slams down, it'll send you back into a rock of some sort. But that's, again, not exactly ideal, nor reasonable to think you can maintain for a long period of time. So, unfortunately, Marley's rough. Now, if you have a few more levels, Marley wouldn't be that bad. I'm pretty sure by the time I beat the next boss, Marley would be a cakewalk. But at this exact moment in time, Marley's kind of a bit too much. And as shown, the health bar just refilled almost completely. Because I stopped to see if I could recharge my Berserk mode specifically. So, yeah. At this moment in time, I was starting to get kind of nervous about whether or not I could beat Marley at all. Like, yeah, absolutely, I can do damage to it. But how in the world am I supposed to defeat this monstrosity without, getting KO'd or worse, simply just missing too long and ending up with it rehealing to max? The answer is a lot more of a dance than you might think. Effectively, you're going to be playing a little bit of, you're going to be playing dodgeball. And your goal is going to be to dodge, duck, dip, duck, and dodge, duck, dip, duck, dive, and dodge, or something. Point being the 5Ds or whatever of dodgeball. But you're going to try to make Marley spit the ball or the electric balls on either side of you and try to get in closer to deal a single hit. Ideally, just one melee strike will be plenty. As long as you have some of your shielding active at the moment in time when you bonk them, you should be able to survive at least one hit. Now, the final attempt that I made of this ended up being kind of messy, but still viable as far as, yeah, we did it. So, I am kind of impressed and proud that I did it, but it's not one that I would ever attempt to do as a melee build ever again. Well, that was stupid. Turns out, if you pause in the middle of a Berserk mode, you drop the Berserk mode. So that's great. Really needed that right there. Oh, and Marley's here. Cool, so my attempt to gaining more levels or something, and hopefully not dying, went by the wayside. Oh, thank you for sacrificing yourself for the greater good. So yeah, there we go. We're just going to dip out of here for a little bit, and hopefully get a little bit of time to recoup. And it was about this point in time where I was questioning whether I wanted to go straight in for the next mission and come back later, or whether I should continue powering through fighting back Marley. But ultimately, I settled on fighting Marley due to the fact that Marley is a challenging opponent, and what you get for beating Marley is significantly stronger than what I'm currently using. Beating Moe and Marley grants you a new artifact, the Incendiary artifact, being the second of the 4 that you'll get throughout the game. The Incendiary artifact is fire, which has higher DPS to most non-armored enemies, or non-shielded enemies, and can typically melt through most enemy types with ease. The only ones that it can't typically have a fireproof shield to begin with. So yay! Fantastic, incendiary everything, let's go. So, that's the kind of goal that I was going for, was just incendiary everything. Once we get the incendiary artifact, a lot of the basic challenges that I've been getting, well, plagued by for the last little while, become a bit of a moot point. The third artifact we're going to get is the explosive artifact. And I am going to have to do a little bit of double checking with a couple of things. because I want to actually see whether or not I can use an explosive artifact to be able to upgrade the explosive tree of Brick's whole setup to see if I can increase output over on that side as well. Maybe possible, maybe not. I'm not going to argue if it's not, but I'd like to find out. Anywho, we're just kind of wondering what to do next, where to go. And I kind of said, you know what, screw it, let's see what we can do. And I had the plan at this point where if I could just land one hit in between, at least one hit in between each round of getting knocked backward by Marley, that maybe I'd stand a chance. And that's kind of all that was keeping me going at this moment in time for fighting Marley. Just due to how strong Marley ended up being, that was really well my only hope, was just seeing what I could do. And Marley ordinarily doesn't come down here. So this was a little bit of a new experience getting chased halfway across the map by Marley. Partially because normally it just kind of stops here and turns around. But I had an idea, I had to follow through with it. First and foremost, I needed to get Marley into a location that getting knocked around wasn't going to be too detrimental. And I figured over here wasn't the worst spot, specifically over by the Rack Hive. The reason I wanted the Rack Hive is because I have rocks on at least two sides, and a more reasonable location where if I needed to duck out, Marley would stop. From there, the battle truly begins. We're going to take off the shock artifact again, and we're going to start playing probably the meanest game of dodgeball I have ever played. We have the rush. Marley's going to start going for the 2 count, and we're going to try our best to get 2 to 3 hits in, and then as it rears up to do the slam, run backwards. Ideally. If I get caught by it, I get caught by it. Not the end of the world. But there's another bonus to this. One I'm not sure if I mentioned. I have a respawn point right here. So if I oopsie and get taken down, I can still turn around and fight Marley right away again. Meaning that at no point in time am I truly out of luck. Just mildly banged up. So hooray for that, I guess. Yeah, this is going actually better than I had hoped. One, and in we go. With at least one bonk, I can prevent Marley from healing in between my berserk modes. Meaning, effectively, that as long as I don't go all out, I can bonk once and kind of keep my distance for a couple of moments. So, now that I know that it's technically possible to best Marley outright through the various means that the game actually gives me, next question is, exactly how bad is it fighting it in this regard compared to with weapons? And the answer is, it's absolutely abysmal. Fighting it with weapons, you usually get that one lucky shot in between a couple oddball dodging shocks where it is possible to get a crit, which would take out a quarter of Marley's health in one go. Even at level 13, a sniper rifle is easily going to be able to best Marley just in general. So bringing out the anti-melee build, shall we say, in Marley really showcases just how, I suppose, how outclassed some characters' generalized skills and expected playstyles would be in this game. See, ordinarily when you're playing as characters like Mordecai and Roland, you're not expecting to get in close. You have a soldier class who specializes in guns of any variety, and a sniper class whose literal job is to avoid getting hit. Stay at distance, prevent your opponents from ever getting close to you. And so, to end up in a situation where you're fighting an enemy whose entire combat style is running away and lobbing shots at you, it really leads to a deficit on Brick's accountability and likelihood of success just because of the type of build and playstyle that is expected of him. And I admittedly am going to use this as this is a sign of great things to come, because if I'm struggling this bad with Marley, I don't want to know how Skagzilla is going to go. And the next two bosses, specifically Roid Rage as well as Sledge, are both incredibly physical oriented, with Roid Rage being an 8-foot to 10-foot tall monstrosity, and Sledge having A, the sledgehammer, and B, an incredibly poor accuracy shotgun with absurd knockback. These two are anti-melee builds as well. So, it's not looking ideal. Not impossible, just not ideal. I think I'm beginning to understand why people often opt for grenades. Okay, really? For grenades to be part of their kit when doing this, because I'll be honest, a pure melee build, while it sounds good on paper, for this particular game, it turns out to not be the greatest in practice. Ow. But we have some good news coming up. Tier 3 abilities are going to start unlocking soon. And when they do, we're going to start getting a faster recovery time on the Berserk mode. Faster recovery time means, effectively, we can beat opponents more readily and more easily just on the sheer hope that everything goes well. At least that's what I'd like to say. See, by decreasing the amount of time between each Berserk mode, I can theoretically, there we go, prevented him from, or Marley from starting to heal up. As I was saying, theoretically, this enemy healing problem won't be as big of an issue after we start getting the ability to speed up how fast the Berserk mode regenerates. I hate this section of the arena. La-di-di-da. Get back here. So yeah, Marley is a boss that has unfortunately overstayed its welcome, and I still have to wait another 60 seconds to get my ability back to do the final bonk on that beast. But no worries, because once we get Marley defeated, we are going to go get the parts for a weapon. Not that we'll actually be using the sniper rifle, but rather because sniper rifles are cool and we're just going to leave it with the interplanetary ninja assassin claptrap. Totally. INAC, or, INAC, is gonna love us in the near future because almost every single weapon that I get through trade is gonna end up at his feet. Which means he'll have plenty to go into Borderlands the pre-sequel with. I think that's okay. Or at least better than some of the alternatives. And Marley is down. Finally. With both Moe and Marley down, it's just a quick jog around a bandito camp. And we're good to go, right? I think. Now, lovely part about this is that there are 4 parts to this weapon. 3 of which are going to be at the upper edge. 1 is going to be in a random trash pile, because why not? And that's going to probably be a huge bonus, or a potential bonus, depending on how you look at it. I want the shock here. Now that Moe and Marley are defeated, I don't have to worry about whether or not I'm going to be healing or doing nothing to Marley with the shock artifact. So that's a boost. That already makes me feel better about coming here and getting shot at, because it means that I don't have to worry as much about literally anything right now. Alright. So top of the hill here on the left by this little cabin, we got one of the parts of this weapon here. Not sure which part it is, I just know it's a part. I kind of forget which part is which. Okay, so we have the sniper rifle body. Oh, no big deal. Well, not a huge issue. Ooh, that was a big bonk. We have the barrel. We have the... I think this one's the stock. And lastly, the magazine. And that's it. If you like what you see, or are curious if this will ever be possible, I'd love if you could leave a like, drop a subscribe, and we'll catch you next week. Until then, be good to one another, and I hope you all have a good one.